Fáilte, Dief, welcome, and hello. This is Sklechog Leliga, and beginning our Planet Crafter early game tips, in the beginning, 10-ish tips for brand new players of Planet Crafter and survival games in general. So a survival game basically pits you against your environment. This is our capsule that we've landed here in Planet Crafter. We crash landed right here in this space. This is our starting valley. We want to use the standard starting location in the survival game with the standard settings so that you get the experience that the developers originally intended as they built the game. So a good reason to start in the starting location here, several good reasons to start in the standard crash spot for Planet Crafter, is there's an abundance of materials. You can see as I kind of turn around, there's titanium on the ground, there's some chests that I can open up and get resources from, there's cobalt and iron and ice that I can pick up to make water in my crafting station. In addition to that, I've got this lovely navigational landmark up here at the top of the hill. We call this the Triangle Rock, and this helps you navigate. So if you can kind of triangulate yourself between, a wreck and the Triangle Rock, and see, you can always know where your capsule is. The valley is pretty wide, and the capsule can actually get lost, and you start climbing over these hills, and eventually your oxygen will run out. So you'll want to know where this Triangle Rock is in relation to your capsule and the various wrecks that you are looking for, so that you can navigate to them with ease. So standing up here underneath the Triangle Rocks, I can see another wreck over there in the distance. Over here to the left, or what would be the west, because the north from the Triangle Rocks is that those set of towers back there, the monoliths. That is north. Mostly west is this cave with the sand falling off the face of the cave. That's an iridium cave. Over in those columns, there's actually aluminum on the ground, and along the ridge of those columns, there's actually super alloy, which comes in handy in your adventures here on Prime. Over here to the right, or mostly east, is a space that I call the Darkling space. When you go in there, you'll see why. But there's also aluminum there. This is also a great place to mine aluminum once you get ore extractors. The same thing for iridium over in the caves. There's also a couple of, I won't show you exactly where, because that'd be kind of cheating a little bit. But there are a couple of golden crates not far from the starting spot. And a golden crate in Planet Crafter basically gives you some premium resources. So you might find iridium or uranium or osmium in one of those in a golden crate, or usually there's some oxygen seeds in there, like a golden seed, which comes in very handy. Build a living compartment with your tier 2 crafting stations and some storage containers. So in our first starting capsule, we have a tier 1 crafter, and that'll let you make some really basic equipment. And I have already made some of this equipment. So if I look at my backpack, I've already got I look at my gear belt, I've got a T1 backpack, a microchip construction, a deconstruction chip, and an oxygen tank. My gear is full, so I can't create a torch and use it until I build something else. And that something else is going to be a tier 2 crafting station, which will allow me to make my first exoskeleton. So the secret of building your first tier 2 crafting station is it has to go inside of a living compartment. You can't build it outside, and you can't build it in your starting capsule. So I've got the living compartment built here. Let's go ahead and put up a door. Jump inside. It replenishes my oxygen automatically. And I'm going to build that tier 2 crafting station. Here. Okay. And now take a look at our tier 2 craft station, and I can build this tier 1 exoskeleton. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to unequip my oxygen tank because I'm inside. Equip my exoskeleton and then my oxygen tank again. And I now have 3 more spaces for equipment. Okay, now I can build my microchip torch and equip that. Go ahead and do that. And equip that right into my gear. Now I have 2 spaces left, and I have everything that I need. I can turn that torch on and off using my flashlight key. And then the final thing that we need to do is build a couple of storage crates so that we can put our materials that we collect out in the world somewhere. Tip number 3 is talks about expanding your range. So you can build living compartment waypoints. I built a living compartment in the previous tip. So you need 3 iron, 2 titanium, and a silicon to build your. I'll stop sharing now. To build a waypoint or build a living compartment, that'll give you a living compartment and a living compartment door. Now, if you want to add T2 crafters or storage into those locations, then you're going to want to make sure that you have additional materials. So if I'm going to run up here, I'm going to grab a couple iron. I need silicon, iron, and titanium. So that'll get me a door, and a spare iron. So that's good. Grab another iron. And I'm going to need another titanium. So I'll keep running. My oxygen is still good. I'm going to grab this titanium. And what I'm going to do is once I start to run out of oxygen a little bit, I might go ahead and build this living compartment and a door. I'll jump inside. Now my oxygen depletes a little less than yours because this is a demo. So I turned down my resource consumption so that I could, run around and do things for you. So there's one, and then I can just keep running on and I can grab the materials. I know I need 3 iron, 2 titanium, and a silicon to make my base building. And usually there's quite a few of these things around. So I've got the 2 titanium and an iron and a silicon, so I just need a couple more iron. I might grab these iron. I do have low power, as I have not built any power. This is a demo. We'll talk about power in a later hint. So I might run up here and go ahead and build another living compartment. And what this does is this. Jump in and get my oxygen. So there's a spot there that I can get oxygen, a spot here that I can get oxygen. There's another little hut down in the valley. So I can do this in any direction. I can go ahead and just grab a couple of titanium, a silicon, and some iron. 1, 2. Oh, here's another iron. 3. And I can just kind of run along and build these out as necessary. I'll put one over in front of this wreck because we'll be talking about wrecks here in a bit. Now again, if you want to set up a space that you're going to be working from, you probably want to go ahead and put a tier 2 crafter in there, and that takes another iron and a silicon. So there's an iron. Oops. And a silicon. Got it. So I'll build that tier 2 crafting station. Now, you can build out your exploration path quite a bit by just running along and picking up the materials that you need for a waypoint. And you can build out in any direction so that even with your limited oxygen capabilities, you can go quite far and explore quite a number of things. Okay, so the next hint will be explore nearby wrecks. And to do that, we're going to want to make sure that we have a flashlight chip or a torch. I'm also going to put away some of these materials that I don't right now I'm going to go ahead and make some oxygen out of those two capsules. And I'm going to eat one of these food. My food is up. And I'm going to equip this torch. So once I equip the torch, I can press F to turn the light on and off. And we're going to go in and take a look at this wreck. So inside of a wreck, what you're going to find is materials that you can deconstruct for building materials. So there's a piece of debris that we can deconstruct. You're also going to find various chests that you can look in, find food, and materials that you're going to need, super alloy, aluminum. Well, we're going to need most of that. And you can break down these boxes for additional iron. Sometimes, as you poke around, you're going to find things like that back there, which is a tier 2 heater, which you can deconstruct to get the materials out of it. And sometimes there's even water or other materials in here that you can consume. But again, look, we found a couple of food. We've got some materials that we're going to need. All right, so our fifth hint is it's very easy to get yourself in trouble out there. So every time you go through the door, you want to look down to the left and check your resources, see where your vital signs are. If you need some food, now's the time to eat it. With space food, gives you back 40. If you have extra water, go ahead and drink the water. Obviously, your oxygen is going to be a 100%, so you don't really need to worry about that. Also, make sure that you have a water, an oxygen, and a food in your inventory before you leave. So now your vitals are all good. I've got food, water, and oxygen capsule in my inventory. So I'm going to go ahead and go outside and take a look around. So I feel pretty safe now. I can run to my next pod over there and get things going. So I've got some power going here, and that's going to take us to our sixth hint is you want to get all of your T3 your T1 terraforming technologies going. If your oxygen gets high enough, you'll be able to make food growers, which allows you to make your own food. All right, so the hint really is up there in the corner. Craft a T1 drill, craft a T1 heater, craft a T1 vegetube. This is not rocket science yet, but these are things that we can do. Now, one thing they don't tell you is these things take power. So how much power do we have? We have 0.6 kilowatt being produced. How much is it going to take? Well, the T1 heater is going to take 1 kilowatt. We have 0.6, and the heater alone is going to take 1. So we're going to have to make more energy or more wind turbines, more power production to get there. So I'm going to need at least 1, and the drill takes a half, and a vegetube is going to take 0.35. So I'm going to need to increase my overall power output by at least 1.85. So I'm going to go ahead and build 2 wind turbines just to be safe. Put one here and one over here on this other corner. Now I should have 3 kilowatts, and I do. So now I can actually build my 3 items. Let's go ahead and build a heater. I have the materials there in the corner. So right now you'll see my terraforming index is 0. I'm going to build my T1 heater. Go ahead and put that over there in the corner. Okay, T1 heater's going, and you'll see that now we have 0.45 picokelvin per second. The heat on this planet is increasing by that much so far, just from that one little heater. Now that's an infinitesimal amount, but as we go, the various tiers will increase our output a great deal. So we've got some heat going. Now we need to build some pressure. The drill goes outside. I'm going to grab my materials. I'm going to need an iron and a titanium. I'm going to go ahead and go out here, and I'm going to build this drill. Put it right there. I'll jump back inside and we'll see that now we have pressure and heat both producing. And you'll see that the terraformation index is the sum of these values. So right now we've got 27 Ti, 28, 29, 30, it'll keep going up, and it'll just add those two values together. All right, just a quick jump. I had to go grab some material. So I'm going to take the rest of this and this pastera seed, which is an oxygen producer. So right now you see that our oxygen is sitting at 0 production. So I'm going to go ahead and build this vegetube. Pop that in the corner. Now that will not produce anything all by itself. The vegetube itself does not produce any oxygen. It has to have an oxygen producing seed in there. This pastera seed is a multiplier of 200%. So the base value of this vegetube, if you have just a basic lerma seed, is going to be about 2.4 or 2.3, 0.23, I should say, parts per quadrillion. So now you'll see that our oxygen is increasing, and we also have our pressure and our heat increasing, and the sum of those three items is our terraformation index. So especially if you want to get the oxygen going, because it's going to give you your food growing capability. All right. This is tip number 7. Use the blueprint screen to decode blueprint chips when you find them. In this storage crate right here, I just happen to have found a blue chip microchip. Use this on the blueprint screen to unlock new blueprints. So we're going to go ahead and take all this stuff. I'll take the chest too. I'm like that. I like to destroy things, deconstruct them. So the blueprint screen requires an iron and a silicon. Right here, so an iron and a silicon, and a little bit of power. So I had to put it right there on that crate. Now, if you go in here and take a look, you can see all the terraformation trees, the technology trees that are available based on your overall terraformation index. You have this line, which goes up and up and up. So that's right now we're apparently we've just unlocked the double bed, which is a nice decorative piece. It's not functional. You don't sleep in this game. Oxygen, we've just unlocked the food growers, and we'll be looking at vegetubes and T3 heaters coming up shortly. But again, this entire row is based on how much oxygen you've put into the air, into the atmosphere. Your heat is right now we're at 16.0 nanokelvins, and we'll unlock the T3 drill at 21 nanokelvins. So again, the heat tree is right along here, and you'll see how much heat you need to unlock each of those. And the pressure item is down here. Now there is a 5th tree, and that tree you can't view, but it's associated with these microchips. So the only way to get the blueprints that are associated with microchips is to find the microchips out in the wild and come back here to the blueprint screen and decode them. So I have one in my inventory, so it's represented right here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on decode a blueprint microchip, and it gives me T1 agility boots. So that's handy. So now I can go over here and I can look in my tier 2 craft station, and I can see that I have tier 1 agility boots available to create now, and this increases my movement speed overall. So I'm going to go ahead and make those and equip those, and now I'll go a little faster when I run around. In addition to the microchips and the technology trees, you're going to need to make these things work. You need power, and you're going to need a lot of it. Right now we've got a consumption of about almost 20 kilowatts with the terraformation gear, equipment, and the screens and so forth that we have created. They're consuming almost 20 kilowatts of power. And as the tiers go up, they will consume much more power. You'll see here that a tier 2 heater consumes 3.5 kilowatts, whereas 2 tier 1 heaters only consumes 2 kilowatts, so 1 kilowatt each. So the tier 2 heater consumes 3.5 times as much power. So you're going to need a lot of power as you move along. Over here on the right, we have the production, and that's we have 8 wind turbines, 2 T1 solar panels, and 1 T2 solar panel. So you'll see that my 2 T2 T1 tier 1 solar panels and my 8 wind turbines barely outmatch a single T2 solar panel. So as the tiers go up for the power, you get quite a bit more power. So a single turbine is 1.2 kilowatts per second. I have 8 of those. A single tier 1 solar panel gives me 6.5 kilowatts, whereas a single tier 2 solar panel gives me 19.5. So again, a single tier 1 or tier 2 solar panel is worth almost this much, or worth a little bit less than the rest of these combined. If I took away one of these wind turbines, they'd be about equal. Now, why do we need all that power? Well, at the very beginning, we don't need much. The tier 1 terraforming equipment, this is our 9th tip, by the way. The higher the terraforming equipment, the greater the output, but it also takes more power. So here, this is a tier 1 vegetube. It's got a lerma seed in it right now, and that's the basic. So that is 100% of the output. So it's the baseline output for a tier 1 vegetube. So that gives me 0.23 parts per quadrillion per second. It takes 0.35 kilowatts, so 0.23 parts per quadrillion, 0.35 kilowatts. Now, we can use different oxy seeds. This one is an oxygen multiplier of 150, so we're going to see that this is actually gives us a little bit more oxygen, but it takes the same amount of power. So obviously you want to have a higher percentage of oxygen multiplier in these tubes as possible. The lerma is the baseline. It's 100%. And then they go up from there. This is Shanga, it's 150%. And it'll give me some additional oxygen for the power consumption. Now these are tier 2 vegetubes. Let's take a look at the lerma. The lerma is giving us a basic 1.8 parts per quadrillion, but it's taking 1.25 kilowatts. So that's quite a bit more here than here. It's basically 5 times the amount of oxygen and about 4 times the amount of power that we have here. Actually, it's a lot more oxygen. So the oxygen is the vegetubes are actually very efficient as they go up in tiers. Not all of the terraforming equipment is the same. So, but anyway, 1.8 parts per quadrillion. If I go to a 150% Shanga seed, that's at 2.70 parts per quadrillion. If I go to a 200% oxygen producer, I'm at 3.6 parts per quadrillion. So all of those added together gives me my overall performance right now of 8.66 parts per quadrillion, which is pumping up our oxygen fairly quickly, quickly enough that we've actually already opened our food grower. Now the same thing happens with our heat. So a tier 1 heater is only giving me 0.45 picokelvin, it's a tiny amount per second, picokelvin per second. And as we discussed earlier, it takes 1 kilowatt of energy to do that. Whereas a tier 2 heater takes 3.5 times as much power, but it gives me 6.75 picokelvin. Here it's 0.45, this is 6.75. So each tier greatly increases, an order of magnitude increase in the amount of terraformation impact they have. And the final terraformation indicator is pressure. And here's a tier 1 pressure item. drill, and it's giving me 0.3 nanopascals for half a kilowatt. And this one here is 10 times the power consumption, but it gives me 2.25 nanopascals, plus it gives me a little bit of heat generation. So the drills aren't quite as efficient going up in tiers for power as some of the other equipment, but they still give you an order of magnitude increase in the output. So here we're at 0.3, here we're at 2.25, and a little bit of heat. So as the tiers go up, you get a tremendous increase in the volume, or in the rate of terraformation. So right now we're at 50 or so KTI, and that's grand. But as we go from tier 1 and tier 2 on to tier 3, we will see that increase accelerates. So whenever possible, it's always good to take down, if you don't have the materials to make a lot of tier 2, sometimes if you just tear down a couple of your tier 1s, you might have enough materials adding something to it to make another tier 2, and that greatly increases your output. So our heat now is at 13.65 picokelvin instead of the slightly more than 7 picokelvin that we had before. So turning those two tier 1 heaters into a single tier 2 heater greatly increases my heat output. And the same thing would happen if I upgrade use the materials for a tier 1 vegetube to make a tier 2 vegetube. I would get a tremendous increase in the terraformation output. And that's especially true if you look at the pressure drills, because if you tear down 2 drills, you automatically have enough materials to make a tier 2 drill, and you get an extra iron. So all you have to do is find a couple of more titanium, and you can make more tier 2 drills. So a tier 1 drill is 1 titanium and 1 iron. A tier 2 drill is 1 iron and 2 titanium. So every 2 tier 1 drills that you tear down, you can make a tier 2 drill and increase your output. Now we've got a tier 3 drill. So if we took a look at that one, we would see our pressure is 25.5, so 10 times, again, an order of magnitude increase on the pressure output. So if we got a couple of aluminum, which I have in my inventory, that's good. I can go ahead and tear down these 2 tier 2 drills, make a single tier 3 drill out of the materials plus the aluminum I had in my inventory, and now we've greatly increased our overall output. Let me take a quick peek here. Sometimes it's hard to find a spot, but now we're at 25.5 nanopascals per second of pressure output and 0.38 picokelvin heat output. So if you go in here and take a look at your screen, you'll see that our pressure is really moving right now, comparatively speaking. We have from 1 tier 3 machine, we're outperforming 2 tier 2 heaters and 3 tier 2 vegetubes. They're not 1-to-1, but basically you want to see these numbers be very similar in your parts per second. So the parts per quadrillion, the picokelvin, and the nanopascals. If you can keep those basically fairly even in output as you move up, you will tend to get your blueprints unlocked in a consistent manner. So that is our 9th tip. Moving on to the next tip. Let's talk about this. So iridium, we know, is needed for heaters, right? So we need 2 iridium to make a tier 2 heater. We need 1 iridium to make a tier 1 heater. And when we get into the tier 3 heaters, we're going to need iridium rods. But iridium's worth more than that. And it's actually a very important resource. But just to give you an idea of where we are, so this is the Iridium Cave. Right there in the center of the screen is our little hut next to the triangle rocks. And back over here is the wreck that we've been investigating, and we just looked at all of our terraformation tiers. And come back out. So we're right under that falling sand. If we step inside this cave, you're going to see that it starts to change color. It's a little misty, but you can see right on the ground these red glowing rocks. This is your iridium. There's iridium all over the ground here, and this is a great place to put an ore extractor. There's also aluminum on the ground here, which makes life a little easier. Another place that you can just pick aluminum up. And as I said, that the iridium is actually quite extensive. There's a lot of it just on the ground, where you can run around and pick it up. And this iridium, as we go up in technology, is going to be helpful for building ore extractors. You will need it for making ore extractors. You will also need it to make rocket engines. So this space here, this little platform where I'm standing on, right inside the cave mouth, is a great place to set up a couple of ore extractors to continuously mine iridium, which is a very valuable resource. It's necessary to make those heaters, but it has a lot more value than just that. So knowing where you can get these resources is pretty cool. Now I have a bonus for you as well. Not only do we have iridium and aluminum here, but once you've built enough heaters and increased your overall heat, you will eventually melt this ice. And this ice here at the back of the Iridium Cave, right beyond it, there's a space. You can almost see a cave entrance. And on the other side of that cave entrance is a field of sulfur. So you can pick sulfur right up off the ground out there. And that's also a place right through that cave entrance right there. Is a great place to mine or to put an ore extractor to collect sulfur. Now I'm above the starting valley, and you'll see the triangle rocks. They're right in the center of the screen. My cursor's on them. And our starting pod, the crash pod, is right there at the base of the valley, and our first little living compartment is there. You'll also see in the distance the darkling space where there's aluminum on the ground. And over there is the wreck that we were recently at. Behind me here now, on top of this sand dune, is another wreck that you can exploit. And behind it is another frozen cave. So again, once we get up to 500 nanokelvin, this will melt. And you can see right here through the ice that there's a piece of osmium on the ground. So osmium and sulfur are also available to pick up off the ground in this space. So this starting valley is very rich. As I said in hint number 1, and this is a great place to start because you have all of these resources right at hand. And it's quite a scenic space. It's fairly easy to navigate just using the triangle rocks and the wrecks and your capsule. You can really get a good idea of how to navigate this space. So that's my bonus hint. And there we got a T3 vegetube came in on our technology tree, and we've got some more weather coming in. So I'm going to take this opportunity to sign off and hopefully not get struck by any of those meteorites as they come in. All right, have fun. Hope you have fun playing Planet Crafter. Hope this inspired you to start your own adventure.